Radio check. Loud and clear.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Got a new
You already know what
microphone.
it is. New microphones.
New microphone check.
This one is fuzzy this time. I don't know what it does. We're gonna figure it out.
This one's mine.
But we have a British Grand Prix recap. The season continues to get more exciting. We're now at 6
Yep.
winners for 12 races,
Yep.
which is crazy.
Yep. And it's what, 3 different constructors? 4 now?
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
different constructors.
Yep. So
Some of the constructors, their drivers are soloing, but
yeah.
that's beside the point.
Yeah, that's another time.
But so basically, if you did not watch the race, you should find a way to watch it. Highlights will also not cut it this week.
Yep.
There's a lot. We had some rain. It was great. Before we jump into that, I promised last episode for our preview that I would have an F3 recap. The most that I have of that recap is that Arvid Lindblad swept. He won the feature and he won the sprint, and that is because I was awake for qualifying. You can't ask me. I forgot to write down who was on it, so I was awake. That's as much recap as I have.
Yeah, honestly, same.
Yeah.
I promised an F2 one, and I was extraordinarily sleepy. It was like 3:45 in the morning. I was going through some stuff, and I just could not stay awake as well as I should have.
Yeah.
But I think I remember most of it. I know. I think Isaac Hadjar won. That sounds right. And that the big thing you need to know is that Paul Aaron is no longer leading the championship because
tears streaming down.
Literally tears. Because he decided to get a little penalty for causing an incident, and that set him back from 11th place to like whatever it was now. So yeah, that's the only really big thing you need to know.
It's fine. He has a win cooking. It'll happen. And then
I think next one, it's cooking. It's coming.
But he needs the feature win. The feature win gets him the most points.
Yep. I think feature win will get him exactly tied up with Isaac. Or around
I think so.
Isaac's score right now. So.
So basically, if you quit watching F1 or decided to watch feeder series because you were tired of Red Bull domination, you still got Red Bull domination because Hadjar and Lindblad are both Red Bull juniors. So can't escape.
Sure are.
But F1 wise has not been Red Bull domination as of late.
No, as of late, yeah.
And that's a perfect transition into our British GP recap.
Yes, very good.
So I would like to thank Formula One for not only being the topic of this podcast in general, but also giving us a lap-by-lap update so I didn't have to remember it all by myself. Shout out to the real ones.
Shout out them.
First things first, Pierre Gasly had a 50, I repeat 50, grid place penalty because he replaced everything in his car, pretty much.
And what did that get him? What did that get him in the end?
Nothing.
Because guess what? He DNF'd on this formation lap. He couldn't even start the race. So
it wasn't even a DNF, it was a DNS.
It was a DNS.
Start. But now the question, so the serious question I have is, since he did not start and that grid penalty, it's for the next race that he starts, will it affect him in Hungary? To be determined. People more knowledgeable than me probably know that answer. Yeah. I'm gonna venture to say yes, but don't hold me to that.
Yeah, I mean, if he wasn't able to serve it, I'd imagine probably get him in the next one, but yeah, really unfortunate for him.
Checo started from the pit lane because he replaced something.
Yep. Like wing piece or something, because that's usually what's.
But yeah, it's always something after Parc Fermé, and so
Yeah,
it was something. To replace something. If I find it,
something.
I'll put it somewhere. Add it in at the end. Put a little image,
Yep.
graphic, something.
There you go.
Yeah. So, that starts the race. We had George on pole,
Mhm.
Lewis in P2, Lando in P3, Max in P4, Oscar in P5. And then others just kind of fell from there.
Yep.
Um,
We had Logan
yeah.
Sargent, P11. Hello.
Mhm. Yeah.
Qualified P11.
Behind a Ferrari.
Behind a Ferrari.
Yep.
And then Nico
Right
Hulkenberg,
behind a
P6.
Ferrari.
Yeah, right behind a
Mhm.
Ferrari, which is crazy.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I think
Yes.
we may have to start unstanding Ferrari on my end. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore.
Although, listen, I apologize to the McLaren fans out there because I kind of like first episode I was like couldn't be me. I don't know what the Ferrari fans feel like, and it like and in light of a recent video I watched, we've been this way, the way we felt today since the race since Imola. That was the race after Miami. We have
Yep.
not been back on our come up. So strategy, unluckiness.
Yep.
It's orange Ferrari, I feel. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think, okay, let me be clear. I still like Charles and Carlos. I don't think they could have done anything in their situation. I think Ferrari's strategy is just consistently been bad, and it always has
mhm.
been. Because I
Yeah,
like, why re-sign Charles for his entire life if the strategy isn't going to do him any good?
right?
Like, he won Monaco, and then what happened? What happened?
Literally. Literally. Um Charles
Yeah.
Leclerc like he I don't know, he's in some bad dealings, I guess, because like I want to say he sold his soul. He sold his soul for the Monaco win, and then they took everything else from Ferrari. They're like, okay,
Yep.
that's what you wanted.
I saw a meme that was like, you know, the scene from, I think it was like Infinity War, where like
Mm,
little Gamora's like, what did you
yes.
do? Like, what did it cost you? And it was like
Yes.
him winning Monaco and then him losing every other race after. Yeah, something
Mhm.
shady's going on there.
Yeah.
I'm not making suspicions, but maybe there's some selling of souls involved or something. Payment of some
Unofficial.
sort.
Unofficial.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kidding, Charles. We love you. You're a great driver.
It's not your fault.
You do not
I'm
need
so sorry.
the devil. Yeah, you did nothing wrong, okay?
um so yeah. Um in order to get to the Ferrari strategy, we recap lap 1. George kept the
Mhm,
lead. Lewis stayed in P2. Max overtook Lando. So Max slotted
mhm.
into P3, Lando P4, Oscar P5. Um, Carlos was P6 at
P6.
that time. Yes, Carlos was P6 at that time. And so then we start to hear that it's about to start raining. That's when it
Mhm.
first starts being reported over the radios, and that's what the commentators talk about. Um, and so there was be prepared for rain. That being said,
Yep.
there was already damage within the first 3 laps. Alex Albon made
Mhm.
contact with, I think it was Lance, and
I no, it was Fernando.
oh, it was Fernando. Okay, it was an Aston, so
Yeah, it wasn't Aston. Yeah.
he made contact with Fernando, and so that caused him body work. And you hear Logan Sargent say that over the radio. Ben's a good team player,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. He came in clutch for also, if you can hear fireworks, my mic is definitely picking it up because I can see the little bars, like, moving. But they've been shooting fireworks off in my neighborhood for the past 2 days, like, every night. And I don't know who's doing it, why. I think they're just trying to get rid of the 4th of July overflow. But yeah, ignore that. If you
I'm pretty
hear
sure.
what sounds like gunfire, it's fireworks.
So yeah, George stays in the lead for a while.
Mhm.
Mhm. And then, yeah, the rain. Midfield, Danny Rick and Checo both increased in places, but everything is still kind of slotted the same. And then that's when we get close to the interesting Ferrari strategy, because more rain. There's signs like it's gonna be rain and it's gonna be heavy. Our first pit stop of the race is Zhou. He pits for mediums, but then,
which is interesting.
oh yeah, it is interesting that
I was like,
he started on soft.
Interesting choice, Sauber.
Went to mediums, but that strategy could have been utilized later. Anyways,
yeah,
Charles gets up into P7, and so it's looking like a decent race. Then the rain gets hard, but not hard enough, and Ferrari calls Charles into pit for inters too early. The problem was the track was not wet yet. Yes, it was raining, but the track was not wet. And so inters, dumb call. I was about to say stupid call, but dumb call. I mean,
very dumb.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. Like inters will work on a dry track, but not as well as a slick would have, which is like, why did they think the track was even wet? I think Charles would have told them, like, hey, the track's getting wet, let's pit. But no such thing.
It's that time too that Lando gets back past Max using DRS. And so Lando's climbing his way back up. It looks like at this point it might be a McLaren 1-2 because Oscar is also cooking. And then Hamilton passes George. Everybody cheers. Everybody liked that. Yeah, that was lap 18. Lap 19, Lando passes George. Because it says here, I didn't see this personally, but both Mercedes go off the track at turn 1, and that's what allowed Lando to close the gap and pass him.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, they both like turned wide and then they got like oversteered. So they both like spun out, and I was like, oh my god, this looks like Mercedes when they hit each other. Because I didn't see that they hadn't collided. I just saw them both go off track. I was like, oh god, it's happening.
But then, so this is why, like, as the rain is coming down, and so Lando being Lando, he kind of he performs in the rain. Sochi 2021 excluded because another strategy screw up. But I mean, we saw it in sprint.
Yeah, we don't talk about Sochi.
Quali for China. It was in the rain. Lando was cooking, and so you kind of expect them. You kind of expect him to cook here, and he did. And then Oscar also cooks and gets into P3. By this point, I am living for a McLaren 1-2. It was either that. So here's where, like, I wanted Lewis to win, and then a British podium, or I wanted a McLaren 1-2, and then I didn't really care about P3. But the McLaren 1-2, a Lando win would have been nice, an Oscar win would have been better, just because it'd be Oscar's first win. But then a Lando win would have been nice because it was his home race. Agreed. Anyways, got the Lewis win, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But Lewis win, and then British 3, but then Max was back in P2. But so yes, it's looking like right here there's going to be a McLaren 1-2, and that it's a McLaren 1-3 right now, and so we're still hoping.
This is where it all goes wrong.
Charles pitted for inners.
Yeah, McLaren pulls out the dumbest strategy.
Although Checo is now reporting the lap after that it's too dry for inners. So that's when you get you realize that Charles cannot get, like, he slipped to like P15, I think, maybe lower. And so
around there. P17, I think.
Okay, but also what they didn't include in this, that George, like, not even that far into the race, DNFs because of a water supply system.
Oh my, out of nowhere.
You see Lewis overtake him, and then they have him retire the car. And it's like, you think he's just going in for a pit for something else?
Yeah.
Like, yes. Like, I can't believe this was not even in the recap.
On my perspective, it was like, yeah, it was such a strange thing too, because like I'm watching the race, I'm in bed, whatever, and I'm listening to the commentary, and then they did a little like radio bubble on the side, and it's like Russell radio, whatever, and then it says retire the car, and I was like,
yeah,
huh? And at the same time, the commentators were like, wait, what? So everyone starts freaking out because they're like, what's going on? What's going on? Because obviously there's no visible damage to George's car. So they're like, what is going on? That's making him come back in. But yeah, it was like a water system.
A water supply system, which is wild.
And yeah, he was
I get water is important. I would have kept going. I would have said, no, not happening.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was more like a engine cooling type thing, not like his drink thing.
I know what makes the cars go fast. I don't know about the inside.
Something was wrong. I think they said hydraulics. Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah.
So George DNFs out of this, and so crazy. Which is again why it's not in their recap. I don't know. So this is a word of warning. Don't trust everything you see on the internet. Yeah.
Yes.
So Charles.
Trusted
Charles
sources.
In P15, P16, somewhere around there. And Logan Sargent is beating a Ferrari. I just want to throw that in there because Logan Sargent had a great weekend this weekend for freedom. It was 4th of July weekend, and he knew what he had to do. He ended up one place off of points.
Yep. He was so close. He went up to P10 at one point. I was like, and I was like, oh my god, he needs to hold this for like. I didn't want to like say anything in the group chat because I didn't want to jinx it. Because he was up in P10, and I was like, oh god, this is not good. But then he ended up losing it, which is fine. But he overtook K-Mag, which I think is I think that's impressive in and of itself. Because if we know how K-Mag drives. If Logan got past him, I'd say that's revenge for Miami.
And so, Charles eventually gets lapped. Everybody starts getting lapped, and then Max and Carlos switch to inners on lap 27. So this is halfway point of the race. Switch to inners, and the top 4 are still out on the mediums. The top 4 at this point are Hamilton, Lando, Oscar, and who else was in P4 at the time?
You said Hamilton, Lando, Oscar, I think Carlos. Because I remember at one point being like, oh, we might get a Carlando podium because he was behind Max. And his interval was shrinking towards Max. And I was like, wait.
Whoa, okay. No, it's because I got the timeline of George's retirement wrong. He didn't retire until lap 34. I could have sworn it was earlier than that because it was shocking. We were at halfway at like the race point by then. I was like,
oh yeah,
came
out of nowhere.
So then it's the 2 Mercedes and 2 McLarens. Okay, that checks out because Max was he was running 5th at the time, and then Carlos was P6. Yes, that checks out. So Carlos and Max pit for their inners, lap 27.
Yes.
Then McLaren breaks my absolute heart. For those of you who don't know, so you should know that this is only Oscar's second year as an F1 driver. Okay, so he's not a rookie. He had a great standing for his rookie year. It was a good one. He does not he's not the best tire manager yet, because first off, McLaren did not get good until the British Grand Prix last year. Austria, there was signs of hope, and then British Grand Prix secured that. And so then after that, they were starting to get good, and he had a good car. But managing his tires is not something that he's significant at. Lando, on the other hand, is very good at managing his tires. We've seen it. Miami, that's literally what he did. All the podiums that he's gotten have been from managing his tires and doing it well. McLaren decides, as Hamilton pits, as Russell pits, they decide to pit Lando. However, and so, they leave Oscar out, keeping in mind that Oscar's tire management is good, but it's not where it will be in a short time. As they're pitting Lando, they give...
And they knew Lewis was pitting also.
They give Lando the option of mediums or softs. What's important to note at this point is that McLaren had new sets of mediums for both drivers. Mercedes did not. They had use softs, and then use mediums. They had not report they gave Lando the option, but they didn't offer the data of the mediums from other teams to him, and it cost him significantly, and it made me so angry, because that's what happened in Sochi 2021. Is they something McLaren did not tell Lando caused him to make the wrong decision, and so he stayed out on his slicks. He didn't get inners at that point, and this time it was the reverse. They didn't tell him something, and he chose softs instead of mediums. And so, in fact, if they'd had left out that that Lewis was putting on softs, he would have been it would have been fine, and I think he would have chosen the mediums, because you hear in the cool down room, Lewis literally asked him that, why didn't you go on your new set of mediums that he knew that McLaren had. Anyways, and so not only that, they give Lando this option, they leave Oscar out on inters on a drying track where the degradation is astronomical. And it becomes evident very quickly when, McLaren chose not to double stack. Who did double stack? Mercedes. And it ended up costing Oscar more time because of the track issues than it would have if they had double stacked. And they Oscar and Lando are very twin flame-esque, that you can tell that Zach Brown has a type, but in this case you could tell when they prioritize Lando over Oscar, and I was so angry because it's not the first time it's happened again, and it's
and at that point they can't even say we didn't even think about that, because why else would Pirelli give you the C3s to C1s? Those are the hardest out of the slicks you can get. If you know that, even with they had weather trackers on that pit wall, I know they do, I've seen them. If they know that rain is not coming hard enough, coming down hard enough to where the track is going to remain wet for a while, to where inters can be used for longer. I love Lando, don't get me wrong, but there is sometimes very clear favoritism, simply because I think Lando has that race win and Oscar doesn't. And they're just trying to get Lando another one.
It's fine. I think it's BS though, because Lando, Lando's been driving for 6 years, and yes, he would have had a win at Sochi his win would have come earlier. Again, McLaren strategy.
Yep.
But Oscar is like prime for a win. Like Oscar would have had a win quite possibly if it hadn't been for the strategy today. And like
oh yeah. Yeah. No, Oscar is a really good defender. Like on top of like I think if he'd been put in the position where he was able to come in, get the like either softs or mediums, whatever he wanted, I think the second he came out of that pit lane, it would have been like he would have started building that interval immediately. And I think what Lewis was behind where Lando was at this point, and that was where the overtake happened. But Oscar is a really good defender. Like for like a front of the field contender, he does really good defending, and I think that's why he's been able to hold on to so many of those like podium positions in those complicated tracks, is because he knows what the person behind him is thinking, and he knows where they're coming from. He's very good with the mirrors, so I think he would have been able to keep Lewis behind enough
and
to where he would have been able to.
They could have worked together too to like widen the gap, give Oscar some DRS. Like it could have been done, and it was not. And I'm so angry.
It could have been like Singapore 23, where like Carlos and Lando, not even on the same team, but if you don't know what happened, basically Carlos was keeping Lando, I think 0.8 seconds behind him on purpose, which is a really small interval.
It's within DRS range.
But he was keeping him there on purpose to give him a slipstream.
To widen the gap. Yes.
Yeah. And like even the Ferrari strategist didn't see it. Carlos made this up as he was driving. He's like, I'm going to keep Lando behind to give him a slipstream to let him overtake George. And it worked. And then George crashed out, but like that's another thing. But why like drivers I feel like have more of that in race strategy experience. Like obviously engineers are trained to do that, but like there's some things that only a driver can see because they've just, been on the track so much and they know where these things are coming from. So I think especially with like teams like Ferrari and McLaren, when they have those moments where it's like, what do we do? What do we do? Think from the driver's perspective. Don't just be like, okay, statistically, like a medium would get you further because, high dag, whatever, but like, Lando and Oscar would have worked together because I think Oscar also understood how much a win at Silverstone would have meant to Lando. So it would have been a team effort to get them both on the podium had, the double stack happened. But Zach Brown, I don't know who called the orders to keep Oscar out, but whoever did, I hope you regret what you did.
And it's like it needs to be remembered that this is Oscar's second year, and he hasn't been in position to be thinking about these things until second half of last season and then this season. And so he's still fresh as in terms of on track and like racing Formula One wise. Because you have like strat decisions you can make in F2, F3, whatever. But like this is like the big time. And so it's just they need to provide him the room to grow, but also prioritize him as a driver while doing so. So yeah, McLaren,
Agreed.
when I catch you,
and I think
you don't understand.
That's the issue with a lot of like yeah, I think that's like what we were talking about with like the second driver issue. Like I don't like the like concept of like second driver, first driver. Like if you're gonna have two drivers, give them the same opportunity. Like like sometimes obviously in some cases there's one driver might be better compared to like a rookie, like that happens, but like you still signed said rookie for a reason. Like they shouldn't be considered second best just because they're new, because there have been moments where Oscar competitively is better than Lando, but Lando is still the first driver. So it's like, And like, especially like Ferrari also, like Charles and Carlos, I think are very like around equally matched. I think strategy wise, Carlos gets the upper hand, but he's the second driver. Second. So it's like where does the discrepancy lie between who gets what? Because sometimes the second driver gets the better strategy and sometimes it's the first, and then it's like, who are we considering as your priority right now? And like, I think, you know, strategically sometimes Oscar is a better driver than Lando, and we've seen that. But there's also where, you know, then you've got Lando being the better driver than Oscar. So it's like, where do we draw the line on that? And like, especially at Ferrari, because it's like Charles and Carlos, I'd say there's maybe like, I could count on one hand that's like what's different between them. And it's all strategy. Like, I think Carlos is a little bit better at thinking on the fly, which is what helped him so much with a lot of his strategy, because he just comes up with it on his own. Where Charles is like, I think he focuses more on what his engineer is saying, because I mean, I guess that's, you know, that's what they drill in your head, is like, you have to, you know, listen to your engineer or whatever. But I mean, out like on screen at least, I don't see Charles like strategizing as much. There have been moments, but I don't know. I feel like Carlos is more like quick with it in terms of that, which I don't know.
I think in that case too, we also remember that Carlos is more experienced than Charles. And personally, like I know that him and Max got into it a little bit at Toro Rosso.
Yep.
But I feel like the atmosphere and environments Carlos has been in before getting to Ferrari has helped him with that, because of strategy calls elsewhere. And maybe he was given the opportunity for that, and like trusting his intuition and like on like in race strategy, on track strategy. Whereas Charles, it was Alfa Romeo and then Ferrari. That was it. And so Alfa Romeo, obviously, like I'm pretty sure he literally as himself viewed that as a stepping stone. It was just, he just needed a year before Kimi retired.
Yeah.
Whoever it was, Kimi switched back to wherever else. To get in the Ferrari seat, because he's il predestinato or whatever. I can't say it Italian wise. Sorry, if there's any Italians out there. I also didn't try hard enough to say it right, so I apologize for that too. But, and so he's like, yeah, I mean, it's like he's kind of not been in the position, or he's not been encouraged, because we also like with Binotto or whatever, just the way that atmosphere was for Charles, and so he hasn't gotten the chance, I don't think, to be as aggressive, as intuitive as he could be. And so the whole, I mean, first driver, second driver,
I think with that also, it's like something the teams they were with.
Yeah. I think it's funny when team principals try to deny that there's not a first or second driver, when it's really clear that there is one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like also the teams before they joined where they are now really like set their like mindset, I guess, with like strategy, because like with McLaren, which is where Carlos was before Ferrari, he obviously is very close to Lando. Him, like, if he would do whatever it would take to get both of them on the podium at the same time, because I think he was just that close to Lando. Like, they had a very strong friendship at McLaren. And even after, you know, he still has indirectly sort of helped him, you know, like, you know, with the slipstreams and stuff. But I think with Charles, since he was at Alfa Romeo with Kimi.
Quick pause. We both became aware that Kimi and Charles were not on the same Alfa Romeo team shortly after this. But I wanted to leave in the conversation because the points that we made, we feel are good, and we still want you guys to hear. So, back to the episode.
I love Kimmy, but he's a very quiet person. Like, I don't think
at that point
compared
also
to like
he just
Carlos
didn't
and-
care.
Yeah, I think that was his like last drive before, you know, he retired and everything. So yeah, I don't think he, you know, cared as much. But he's also just so quiet. I don't think Charles was able to make that big of a connection with Kimmy, which obviously I don't know fully if, you know, they still are in contact or whatever, but compared to what Carlos and Lando had, it's way different. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't see those openings as much as Carlos would have with Lando, or I don't know, but yeah.
I'm making sure that his teammate was actually Kimmy, because I'm pretty sure I just had this conversation with somebody else the other day, and now that I think about it, I'm not sure that Kimmy was his teammate. So hold on.
Oh God, okay. Cut that if Kimmy was not his teammate. I feel like he was.
Hold on, I'm looking. I could have sworn that he was, but
right? Because after Charles left, it was Giovinazzi that took his seat, right?
No, Kimmy was Giovinazzi's. Kimmy was Giovinazzi's teammate, but never Charles's. Oh my god.
What?
Oh no. But it was
Charles left and Giovinazzi took his.
Charles did leave. So Charles was on Alfa Romeo. Charles did leave. He was with Marcus Ericsson instead. I overlapped the timelines because
No,
Charles
same.
left.
I fully 100% like believed it too.
I'm so glad. But literally, like, Marcus left in shame.
Okay, cut that whole bit. Or like voice over Marcus Ericsson every time I said Kimmy.
It's just a Marcus Ericsson. No, okay, but that brings up a different thing, because Charles outperformed Marcus Ericsson, and Marcus Ericsson had been in that seat for years. And then Charles comes in on his rookie year and just like,
yes,
for rookie standards, Marcus
blows
Ericsson
him out
is
of the
gone.
water.
Now he's thriving in IndyCar now. But yeah. But so then Marcus left.
Yeah, you know,
that's what
he's
gave
living
us
his life there.
back to Giovinazzi. Yes. Okay, it's what it is that Giovinazzi was there before Charles and then after Charles. But then Charles took Giovinazzi's seat. And then Charles moved Ferrari. Giovinazzi got his seat back, and then Marcus left, so Kimmy hopped in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll delete that whole
And I think when Kimmy came in, Fred left. Yeah. Delete that whole spiel.
No, Fred was still there. I'm pretty sure, because
was he?
Binotto, Fred has only been team principal since last year at Ferrari.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I swear he's been there for
about
for a good couple of years.
99.9% sure. Let's see.
The title of this episode is going to be episode 4. We say a lot of things incorrectly with great confidence.
Yeah. Episode 4. We thought we knew what we were doing. Let's see, hold on.
Episode 4. We have too much confidence in
what doesn't help. Fake it till you make it. That's what it is. We'll learn the facts later.
Exactly.
This is documenting our journey of getting humbled on the internet to learn our facts.
Next episode,
and to also,
after this one, is going to be episode 5. We got canceled again.
Maybe we need to start writing a script and fact checking these things. I like the natural flow of conversation, but at some point we have to draw the line at public humiliation.
I mean, I think my argument still stands because where have Charles and Marcus Ericsson ever been in contact post Alfa Romeo?
Really? Yep, agree.
I don't think they were ever,
Let's see.
close enough to be like, okay, let me play the team game.
Yes. Fred Vasseur did not come in until 2022. So not last season, but the season before.
Interesting. Okay.
So it hasn't been that long.
Huh.
Yeah.
Feels like forever. Because I remember there's like that video of him cutting Giovinazzi's hair off.
That was when he was at Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
Yeah. What doesn't help the timeline overlap either is Andreas Seidel, who used to be the team principal of McLaren, is now the team principal at Sabre, Stake, Kick, whatever you call them, and will be for Audi. And that does not help with the timeline overlap either. So, anyways, back to where we were, because that's just how these things go.
Yes.
The rain finally lets up. We're lap 38. Lando is in the lead. Hamilton is gaining on him quick. Oscar is back in P5, P6, P5 now because George just retired. Slicks come back out. This is lap 38, so we've got 14 laps to go. Oscar goes on the mediums. Lando picks the softs. And again, Ferrari strategy gave him that option. Not Ferrari strategy. It feels like that. McLaren strategy gave him that option. And yeah. The keyword here is could. So in this recap, it says he indicates softs could be better. It's up to the freaking pit wall to confirm that as to whether the softs will be better or not. Because at this point, Lando boxes on lap 40. Oscar has been on the mediums for 2 laps. And he's flying. He gained like 4 seconds in those 2 laps. And they did not tell this to Lando.
God.
I am so
communication
sorry that
is
if
so
this is what
bad.
It feels like to be a Ferrari fan.
Yeah, I'd say this is pretty accurate. Because especially, what was his last one? They had Charles came out on hards or something when everyone else was on softs, and then he pitted 4
Charles
times.
had another 4-stop race or whatever. Yeah. Another one.
It was a projected 1 stop. So how did we mess up this badly?
I don't know. Yes. So we get to this is lap 40. Hamilton gets the lead. Gets the lead back. Lando's on the softs.
Yep.
A driver can only know so much. I get that if you relay it over the radio, everybody else can hear it. But at that point, it's a battle for the win. And what are they gonna do at this point? Nothing. They're gonna get your data. That's about it. You can at least tell your driver that your other driver is on the new mediums. I am so bad.
I think the only team I've seen that utilizes that yeah, the only team I've seen genuinely use the information off of that is Mercedes and Red Bull. I don't think I've ever really heard Ferrari and McLaren be like, hey, Max or whoever is on this many laps with his tires. He's going to pit soon. Start speeding up.
Literally.
GP is on it with Max. He's like, hey, you're faster than everyone in front of you. Use that to your advantage. Hey, he's about to do this soon.
Yeah.
Use that to your advantage. Guys, use the public radio broadcast more.
I follow, like, I use the McLaren app to follow because they do give you some of their, like, radios that they don't talk about anywhere else. So I do some of those, but it's like, literally, like, you see them, and it's like, the gap to Verstappen is like 2.9 or whatever. Duh. But what's like, what am I gaining? What am I gaining? What am I losing? That's literally where's the it's the fact that Oscar was on new mediums for 2 laps before Lando pitted. They had data to see how he was running considering he was flying, and they didn't tell him that, and they let him make the choice. If they'd have told him that, you know what Lando would have chosen? The new freaking mediums. Because because Hamilton was on used softs. They were used softs.
Yeah.
Anyways,
no, I was like
Hamilton
so confused because like on the radio, Will Joseph, Lando's engineer, every time Lando came into pit, he's like, Lando, it's your choice. Do you want to do the mediums or the soft? How is he supposed to know what he wants to do if you're not telling him what Oscar is doing or what track conditions are, or what everyone else in front of him looks like? Like, he doesn't have the radio piece in his ear. He only can talk to Will. Like, Will's job is to tell him all the stuff he's hearing on his headphones. Like, he doesn't know the exact decimal percentage, like, point of the gap between him and, like, it's so dumb.
If you can't tell him on the curve,
make us strategists.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I know. I would crumble under the pressure.
Put us in.
Like,
Put us
I
in.
don't know.
I don't know.
Give me a back marker team to practice first.
Yeah.
So yeah. All the while, it should be mentioned that while all of this is happening, Nico Hülkenberg is slowly, like, he's going up and up. Like, he's performing,
dude,
a Hoster class.
Oh my god.
That only Nico can perform.
Yeah.
Back-to-back P6s. If he doesn't, like, get a podium this season, next season,
Swear.
Like, Audi better deliver. Like,
yeah. Well, like, I'm also worried about next year with Nico because it's still Sauber next year. Like, the Audi switch happens in 26. So
yes,
a Sauber better not screw him up because they screwed up Valtteri and Zhou, strategy, pit stop, car, everything.
Yeah.
So this better not happen to Nico because his time has well past come, I think, for him to podium or win or anything.
Yeah. And so as this is happening, Lando's struggling on the softs, and so Max, GP's on it, tells Max that he's struggling using the data that he can see. Max gains laps, doesn't lap him, but overtakes him. Max is in P2. Hamilton is still holding out the lead. In P1.
Oh yeah.
Max is closing in. Gets really close. But the gap gets smaller. But Hamilton does take the win. He breaks the record of he was tied for the record of most wins at a single circuit. He now holds the record outright. He was tied with it with Michael Schumacher, and now he holds that record with 9 wins at Silverstone. This very well could be his last race win with Mercedes. I'm kind of scared of Mercedes right now. Optimistically, it's not his last win, but it's just so symbolic, and honestly, I feel like everybody's like, yes, go Lewis, because he has not won since 2021. And we all
945 days since the last time he's won, which is like insane.
It's been
and like
and it's from his first win. From his first win, it's been 17 years and a month. And so, yeah, everybody like cheer, like everything else, like you
Everyone
may have
enjoyed
wanted the
that.
stacks
I don't
to
think
fall
there was a
differently.
single person that didn't like that.
Yes, and it's just like his radio, like I'll put in the clip.
Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot. It means a lot to get this one. A big thank you to all the fans here. Love you guys. Love you, photo.
But like his radio, it was just like he was like crying. It was like I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, God,
and then afterward, like he went back to the fan stage after all the interviews and stuff, and he brought Roscoe on stage and his family, and everybody was just like cheering with them. And so, yeah, it was good. Still would have liked a British podium. That or a McLaren.
We got 2/3 of the way there
because they have not. Yeah, they have not shared a double podium yet. And so, but yeah, Carlos deciding to be Carlos, he's like, well, if I'm not getting on the podium, let me take the fastest lap. Literally 1 lap to go. He pits before his final lap.
Did it.
Goes on soft. He takes the fastest lap. He ruined my brother's bet that he had. He had Max's fastest lap, and Max had it up until the last lap. And then my brother's bet got ruined. So instead of getting $15, he got $2.50. It happens.
Wow. There you go.
That's Formula One. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lewis won. He gets it. Yeah. Lando. I felt so bad in his interviews. It's like,
oh God.
Everybody, and it's like everybody's like, he's Lando, like he's like Lando no wins 2.0 because now that he has a win, he can't get any more. And it's just like, leave the man alone. And it's like, he knew that it was strategy. It was literally strategy, and he like just different racing stuff on his end. It's just like, I can't help. The highlight of that though, also going probably in the memes, is the fact that Lando was giving like a gut-wrenching interview. You could see how disappointed he was, and then in the back, you see Brad Pitt also doing the interview.
Dude.
Except it's not real.
For context,
it's literally for the
F1 movie coming out. Yeah, there's a new F1 movie coming out starring Brad Pitt, and I'm excited because Gunther's in the movie. Hello. And they're shooting all of the race scenes, like the pre-race stuff, at the actual races. So Brad Pitt is there in the media pen doing interviews in his, costume with his whatever Apex Racing or whatever it is.
Apex Racing.
And he's just there. And Lando's over here pouring his heart out about how he would have loved to win at Silverstone. And you got Brad Pitt in the background being like, the race was great. Like, it's always so funny to see him like pop up and like seeing seeing like the national anthem.
That's better be in the movie. Let me see Lando in the background being absolutely gutted.
Oh yeah. Let me see Gunther. I want to see what they do with Gunther.
Yeah. But so it's just, and I think at this point people are starting to be like, Lando should have won, not for Lando's ego, but because McLaren continues to screw up. Like 5 races, there's been something. Safety car,
something that went wrong.
Yeah, that's just luck. But the rest of it, McLaren, it's falling heavily on your shoulders. You have the fastest car. I'm gonna promptly title this. This is gonna be titled McLaren. This is gonna be Dear McLaren.
Good. I like that.
Dear McLaren.
Like, Dear McLaren, no amount of fire extinguisher shaped cookies is going to allow you to pass Mercedes, to pass Haas, to do any of that. Yeah.
I thought it was funny that Zach Brown, like, it was literally the same message to every garage. Not even anything different. Just the same message.
And it was in the most like cursive font handwriting I've ever seen. Zach Brown didn't write that.
Yeah.
Trust. He did
No,
not write
he
that.
signed it and that was it. Write
Yep.
your own letters. Write individual letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cookies were
Exactly.
cute. But
the cookies were cute. Yeah.
anyways, that's our British GP, British Grand Prix debrief. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, we will not be doing a meme review, but you will be able to see our favorite memes from the weekend on our Instagram.
Yes.
You can follow us at Radio Check with 2 R's, 2 K's, and an underscore in the middle.
Next race, Hungary. That's going to be the 19th to the 21st. So, nothing this weekend, but what, like 2 weeks from now or something? I don't know. But yeah.
If you want to reach out, we have a link tree. You can fill out this form, answer the question. You can ask us about any topic or news that you want to hear us discuss. But at the very least, go give us a follow. Follow us or save us on your chosen streaming platform. Yeah, we will see you guys in the next one.
Oh my God, guys! I love you so much.